Welcome to QuizGuides. QuizGuides are short crash course style videos to help beginner, novice, and intermediate players learn more about different Quiz Bowl topics. Today, I'm going to be talking about Herman Melville. So a summary about Melville is that he's a novelist, and he's also a short story writer and poet from the Renaissance period. And some of his major works include Moby Dick, Billy Budd, and Bartleby the Scrivener. Those are more commonly tossed up or asked in the bonus. And other works that he's written that occasionally come up either in regular level or more national level are Typee, Omu, Benito Sereno, and the Piazza Tales. So first, I'm going to talk a little bit about Moby Dick. Since this is Melville's most famous novel, it is the one that's most asked about and asked about in detail. Sometimes you might see characters tossed up or other parts of the book. So it's important to learn about Moby Dick. So the main characters, you have Ishmael, the narrator. You have Captain Ahab, and he is running the ship Pequod, which is a major part of the book, is the ship Pequod. There's a lot of events in the book that revolve around Pequod. And there's Moby Dick, obviously, which is the great white sperm whale. There's Starbuck, who is the first mate of the Pequod. And there's Queequeg, who is Starbuck's harpooner, and he's also Ishmael's best friend. And he meets Ishmael early on in the story, and they're good friends from that point on. And then there's Fedallah, who's a Parsi, which is like a Persian fire worshiper. And he makes prophecies throughout the story that sort of mentally affect the way Ahab, goes along in the story. So I'm going to give sort of a condensed plot summary. So at the start of the novel, Ishmael, he wants to ship aboard a whaling vessel, and he travels to New Bedford, Massachusetts, where he stays at this whaler's inn. And this whaler's inn is known as the Spouter's Inn, which is kind of important. And so at that inn, he meets Queequeg, who, as I mentioned, is a skilled harpooner of Starbuck, but at the time he doesn't know that. Ishmael doesn't know that, but he meets Queequeg at the Spouter's Inn, and they decide to work on the whaling vessel together. So next they travel to Nantucket, and from there they're able to secure a berth on the ship Pequod. And that ship is captained by Captain Ahab. And Captain Ahab at the time is recovering from losing his leg in an encounter with a sperm whale on his previous voyage, and that sperm whale is Moby Dick. So at that point, Ahab announces that he wants to pursue and kill Moby Dick. He wants to basically extract revenge on this whale that took his leg. And so what he does is he nails a gold doubloon to the mast of the ship, and he declares that the first person to sight the whale will earn this prize. And that's a huge clue for Moby Dick, is that he nails this gold doubloon to the mast of the ship. So Ahab hopes that with his skills, as well as the prophetic abilities of Fedallah, who, like I told you, is a Parsi, a fire worshiper, but he's also sort of like a prophet. So with his skills and those abilities that Fedallah has, he can hunt and kill Moby Dick. So, they go on their journey, and there's a lot of things that happen on their journey, but what's notable is that the crew experiences many misfortunes and doom. And this has been predicted by a guy named Gabriel. And Gabriel's a prophet from another whaling vessel that the Pequod encounters along its journey. Sometime along the journey, they run into a lot of other whaling vessels, and on one of these ships, they meet this guy named Gabriel, who says that whoever tries to chase Moby Dick will experience misfortune, because he considers Moby Dick to be almost like this god, and so they can't really hurt Moby Dick, so they will just experience misfortune and even death. So after that, what happens is Fedallah makes a prophecy in regards to Ahab's death. And he basically says that Ahab will first see two hearses, and the second will be made of American wood, and that he'll be killed by hemp rope. That's a huge clue, that he'll be killed by hemp rope. You might hear that a lot in Moby Dick toss-ups. So the journey goes on further, and at some point, Ahab actually sights Moby Dick, and he launches his harpoon boats to go catch him. But Moby Dick destroys the boats multiple times. He launches multiple harpoon boat attacks, and each time they are crushed. And what happens in one attack actually is that Fedallah is trapped on the harpoon line, and he's actually dragged overboard, and he dies. So this is like a few days encounter. So this encounter stretches for about 3 days. And on the third day, Moby Dick actually sinks the Pequod. And what happens is Ahab is caught in a harpoon line. And similar to Fedallah, he's launched out of his boat and dies as well. So eventually, all the whale boats, the whaling vessels, and the men are caught in like in this vortex that is created by the sinking Pequod, and they basically all just die. And there's one survivor though, and that one survivor is Ishmael, who is the narrator. And what's interesting is he's in order to go to safety, because the ship is destroyed, right? But he basically is able to find Queequeg's coffin, which I'll talk about in just a second. And he basically floats atop Queequeg's coffin until he's picked up by Rachel, which is another whaling ship. And actually, what's interesting is Rachel was in the process of searching for its lost crew members when they tried to attack Moby Dick and kill Moby Dick. So that's sort of a plot summary of the story. And I wanted to talk about a few like major clues from the story and also some buzzwords that you might be able to get the question on. So like I mentioned, Ahab nailing a gold doubloon to the mast of the ship, that's a huge clue. Being killed by hemp rope, which is predicted by Fedallah, is another clue. I mentioned the Spouter Inn, which is where Ishmael first meets Queequeg. And this is the part that I was saying that I was going to talk about later. So at some point in the journey, Queequeg gets sick, and he tells the ship's carpenter to make him a coffin, like sort of in anticipation for his death. But he never actually dies. He gets better, and basically the coffin becomes the Pequod's replacement life buoy. And at the end of the story, when the ship is destroyed, Queequeg finds the coffin, and he basically floats on the coffin. So it's kind of, it's sort of ironic in a way that the coffin was made, but Queequeg never actually died. But that boat actually helps save Ishmael at the end. You might hear about the island of Cocovoco, which is actually where Queequeg is originally from. It's kind of minor, but it comes at the beginning of the story. And I mentioned that Gabriel, he says that Moby Dick will destroy you because he considers him to be a god. And that's sort of why his prophecy is made, based on the fact that Moby Dick is a god. And this is more of a deeper clue, but Father Mapple is another character in the story, and he preaches about Jonah's ordeal with an aquatic animal, and sort of that's like almost a foreshadowing in a way of what happens with Ahab and Moby Dick. All right, so that's Moby Dick. Next, I want to talk about Billy Budd. So the major characters of Billy Budd are Billy Budd, who is a seaman who is impressed into service aboard the HMS Bellipotent. And the HMS Bellipotent is captained by Edward Fairfax Vere. They just call him Captain Vere in the story. And there's also the Master of Arms on the HMS Bellipotent, and that's John Claggart. So a short plot summary, basically Billy is impressed onto service from the Rights of Man, which is his old ship. And this Master of Arms, John Claggart, he's pretty envious of Billy because Billy's like, a good-looking guy and stuff like that, and he's a pretty skilled seaman and stuff. So Claggart gets kind of jealous of him. And what happens is Claggart, this envious nature that Claggart has toward Billy causes him to, basically get Billy in trouble. So what he does is he falsely charges Billy with conspiracy to mutiny. And at some point, Captain Vere, he summons Claggart and Billy and asks them to, explain what's going on. And Claggart makes this case for Billy, who is obviously surprised because Billy knows that he didn't do anything. And out of frustration, he strikes Claggart and kills him. So some important clues from the story are that there's a character named the Red Whiskers, and Billy basically beats up this guy. And after he does so, the Red Whiskers starts to love him, which is kind of interesting, might be sort of counterintuitive. And there's two other characters, one named Squeak and one named Dansker. They're just other crew members on this ship. And Claggart basically sends Squeak to initially harass Billy, but Billy makes friends with the aged Dansker, who sort of helps him, avoid all this trouble that he's receiving from Claggart and Squeak. All right, and just want to briefly talk about some other works from Melville. So you have Bartleby the Scrivener, and Bartleby is a scrivener, which is basically like a scribe, and he used to work at the dead letter office. And a common theme throughout the book is anytime Bartleby is given a request to do something, he always responds with, "I would prefer not to." And eventually he dies because he doesn't eat. And he says, "I would prefer not to eat," and he eventually dies. And two important characters you might hear about are Turkey and Nippers, which are two like scribes that are employed by Bartleby to help him out. I talked about Benito Chireno earlier, and that's basically another sea story, and that centers around Amasa Delano's time aboard the ship San Dominic. Then there are another important clue about Benito Cereno is that Delano actually believes that the ship is captained by Benito Cereno, who's like the main character. Well, not the main character, but just another character. But in reality, it's been overtaken by a slave revolt. And the Piazza Tales are basically just a collection of all of Melville's short stories. So that includes things like Bartleby, that includes things like Benito, and there's 2 other works that might come up. These are a bit more, detailed. So there's the Lightning Rod Man and the Encantadas. And an important clue about the Encantadas is that they're actually set in the Galapagos Islands. So you might hear that as a lead-in to a Melville or Piazza Tales toss-up. So yeah, that's it for Melville. Be sure to check out the next video, which will be on US Presidents Part 1. Thanks for watching.